go ahead and get started with the opening business, approval of agenda and consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to do so.
So moved.
All right, we got a first and a second. All that in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm also aye. Old business, Louisville Lane.
Good start. All right, so we don't have a lot of action in Louisville Lane. We have completed the preliminary engineering report. I don't have a copy of that yet from Burton Profit, but it should be coming to us shortly. They have completed the initial surveying. If you've been out there, it's all staked and flagged. So they are essentially on schedule to go ahead and drop the project for RFP either end of the month or early in April. We anticipated being able to do that, and last time I talked to Burton Profit, they expect to be on schedule for that. So that's pretty much the only updates I have for Louisville Lane.
Okay, so where do we stand on that project? I know last year the board said move forward with it, but the price has doubled.
The price is the same as it was when it was approved last year. It was doubled from when the project was first presented to the board in 2017, almost doubled.
And that we have the funding to fund Louisville Lane.
I will defer to
well, we have it. It depends on where you want to take it from. It'll have to come out of either fund balance. It'll have to come out of another project that we've had money sitting in, or really that's probably our only options at this point in time. Come up with $500,000.
And that's to service 10 homes.
8 to 10 homes.
a dozen, about 10 right now. That may change.
I don't know. I wasn't here whenever all this went on. So do these people, what happened to these people's water? Did it just completely, all their wells go dry?
The pre-existing wells, except for one, are no longer serviceable. We have one well that's basically covering 4 families right now, to the point where they have to schedule the kids to do laundry which day and when the kids take showers, that kind of thing. Fortunately, the owner of that well has been a really good neighbor and has shared that water with the community. But yeah, it's a pretty challenging situation.
What about the other families? You said that serving 4.
There is one other well down there that is somewhat productive, but it's not enough to bring up beyond where it's already at. So it covers the families that are already on it. And I've been asked by Ms. Thomason to look into the possibility of creating that well as a public source. And I've got a subject matter expert I'm actually meeting with tomorrow morning to discuss with him what the requirements are for that. We do know, though, that if it's a public water source, that we can't have just one well. We know we have to have more than one side. So it would still probably not, in and of itself, be able to get us out of having to do the project.
So is there potential on that lane for more development if there was water? In other words, more customers means more revenue.
That is correct, and we have been made aware that one of the tenants on that lane or on that project is considering subdividing. Obviously, we don't have anything firm on that, but it has been talked about, and it's one of the reasons I think that it was brought up in 2017 to make it more marketable.
Would it be possible to get those maps that the former board had the option to see and share it with Supervisor Cornett and Thomason?
I don't know what maps we're talking about, but certainly anything we've got.
Well, there were some maps that showed us where the water stopped in Louisville Lane extension.
Oh, we've got the.
Okay. Would that be beneficial?
Yes.
Email them's fine.
Next question would be, if we did use funds that you had suggested, or mentioned, maybe not suggested, correct myself. And we talked about grants and, you know, those, so we know how those things delay and drag on. If we were to receive that, would we be able to repay back the county with potential grant funding?
I want to make sure I understand your question. So the 100,000 grant that we got a grant for 60, I know we paid out 67. We got a grant for 100. And the rest of the project's going to cost us about 450. Is that right?
A little bit under 450.
Oh, so that's all the grant then, there's no other avenue?
Paul and I talked a little bit about this today. I said, is there any other options that you can think of? And he couldn't think of any other options on the top of his head. Now, certainly I can reach out to Deb and ping her and see if there's anything else. One of the timelines, Paul mentioned today was we don't start this in the spring. If we don't go ahead out with an RFP probably in the spring, then we would be into 25 until we start this project.
And we do have funding availability. There are funding sources that are loans, low interest loans. But I've researched it. I've talked to the health department. I've talked to several people, and nobody is aware of any grants that apply to this type of a project.
Was there a discussion about loans previous, whether to do this via loan?
It has come up. The previous board members determined that because we wouldn't be able to apply for those loans until May of this year, we would not be looking at an answer whether or not we received them until December timeframe, which would basically kick the entire project down the road by 2 years before it would complete. And so I was advised not to pursue that. At that time, that does not mean that it's off the table.
Is ARPA money, is that available for water? Or I know we've kind of committed most of that, if not all, but
We have a small amount of ARPA money left. I don't know the exact number that we have left. I just don't have it off the top of my head.
well, as far as the number, that's okay. Would it be eligible for something like this?
I know there was a discussion last year before I was on the board about money being set aside for childcare. Do you know if some ARPA money? Do you guys know if it happened?
That wasn't set aside, that was set as a priority beyond our 911 communications. And ARPA money was ear tagged for the child care and the communications. Communications was our priority, child care was our second priority. I don't think it's moved anywhere yet, but we didn't actually set aside money, we just said those were the priorities for the ARPA money. Is this requiring any action on our part at this point?
Does not at this point. Once they are ready to drop the RFP though, then we're on a timeline. And so we are fine for this month. I would expect that probably we'll have the rest of the information we need from Hurt and Profit by the next scheduled meeting.
And that will be the final engineering and cost out.
That would be basically authorizing them to drop the RFP, accept bidders, and I think once we start that process, then we have to do it all.
Okay.
Well, we certainly don't want to go out with the RFP unless we're intending
To go forward. Gotcha.
Mr. Boyer, for next meeting, when this comes up, can you give us options on where the funds can come from out of the budget so we can pay for it?
Any other questions?
options from this current year, correct?
Yeah, money that's been set aside that we're not currently using. For instance, we talked about last meeting, the Baywood
Got it.
fund, just whatever money we have available.
Okay, moving on to rate adjustment.
So last PSA meeting, we had a substantial discussion about the rate adjustment that needs to take place. We did not reach a consensus up to this point on what exactly we want to do. We are at the point where we need to decide, because within the next 2 billing cycles, we're in the next fiscal year. And, so that's going to have an impact on where our budget request is going to be, where deficit is expected to be.
Is there a time frame that you have to give advance notice on there's going to be a rate increase, or?
There is not, as far as I know. You
You have to have a public hearing on rate increase?
There's public hearing, but aside from that, there's no other. There's a best practice is 2 billing cycles. So we're already pretty close to that.
Well, I mean, we don't have a choice, in my opinion. We don't have a choice but to just pass that cost along to the users. And so, do we need to just go ahead and announce a public hearing for 2 billing cycles from now, which would put us into May PSA meeting?
You need a motion for,
I'm new at this.
I think the public hearing needs to basically define what the rate increase is. So that means we would have to have that determined.
Did we have that determined yet?
No, we don't.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead, man.
No, you go ahead.
Can we have that by next month's PSA meeting? What the rate increase is gonna be?
So, if you remember, just as a reminder, we talked about what the recommendation from Herd and Profit was. We also talked about landing somewhere quite short of that, around the 35% range, to keep up with what Galax was passing along to us. And we want to pass that along to try to make this more digestible for the customers. That was kind of the discussion we had last time on water, if I remember. Am I missing anything on that?
I personally feel like it's unfair to the rest of the citizens of Grayson County to provide service to the 150 people that are getting it. And it's not like we're going to be raising the rates to make more money, because we're losing money as it is. And I think whatever the rate increase from Galax, we have to pass it along.
I'm like you, I don't see no alternative. Was it 80,497 last year deficit that got passed on to the rest of the citizens of the county. I don't think that's fair. I hate to see anybody's bill go up, but I don't see any alternative. And we're not even recouping our maintenance cost for the system. We're just paying for the water from the city of Galax. I don't even, sometime we need to do something. I don't know how it comes about, but we've got to pay for that system. Because as time goes on, it may be pretty well up to snuff right now, but as time goes on, there's going to be breakdowns. Meters are going to go out.
It's 34 year old. It's a 34-year system. We put in
I know Galax has a graduated rate system that so for every 8,000 gallons or 5,000 gallons or whatever the number is, you pay this, and more that we are Galax's customers, not every one of the customers in the 150-foot line. Can we renegotiate with Galax to get the cheapest water rate? Because we would have to be one of the biggest users of their water system.
So, Mitch pointed this out before that we should, they're charging us $6.49 per gallon, which is what they charge, up to
$6.49 per gallon.
I'm sorry, for at first, 2,000 gallons is what they charge their customers, is what they're charging us as individual customers. So I went and met with the Galaxy manager. I made a proposal that I thought it was fair. He did not have situational awareness of the issue. Briefed him on, I think we're a single customer. We have 1 meter. We should be getting charged $5.50 instead of the $6.49. He said, hey, I think you have an argument here. I need to get back with my finance folks and talk to them about this. I called him again to try to discuss it. We haven't kind of caught up on that. They have some significant water issues. I think we're all aware that they have about a $16 million project to replace that water facility. And so I know there's a lot of pressure on their water system. But I do think we should be treated as one customer, but it's a negotiation.
There's about 350 people on that system too.
On the Gay-like system?
Old Town and Fairview, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 350. Gotcha.
Could I clarify something too? Because if the rate increases, does that affect people on the western end of the county, the rate increase?
It did not, they're independently billed. However, we've been advised by the town of Troutdale that their rates are gonna be going up too. One of the things, we haven't discussed it, but I think for purpose of consistency, having one rate for the county is probably more productive than that.
It just, I feel like in the last PSA or several meetings ago, it was my understanding that if we increased it on that end, it would increase on the other end too of the county.
And freeze works.
Is that what your understanding was?
My understanding was it was just going to impact the ones on the Gay-like system.
Okay.
Freezes their own independent too.
Just like independent.
Right. So I was thinking if we increased in the Old Town area, that increase would be the same as, or that rate would be the same for people in the Troutdale area.
As I remembered, it was only going, the Gay-like's price increase was only going to impact. And I mean,
Because we
I kind of feel like it should only impact because that's the only rate increase that's coming up.
The fixed assets and things that Troutdale versus Gay-Like's a lot different. That's a lot less up there. The variables of fixed assets.
So with-
and all that.
all included is about 500 customers total in the county. That's both ends.
Mitch, the Virginia Carolina system, is there anybody between independents, county residents between the state line?
We just talked about that today. Go ahead.
Yes, we do have citizens that are not in the town of Independence, but that are on the Independence water system. And that was passed by the board, I can't remember off the top of my head, several years ago, a long time ago. But that was approved by the PSA board to allow Grayson County citizens between the town of Independence and the state line on 21 South to be on the town's water system, not on the county.
So the town does their billing?
That's
We're not
We
involved.
don't have any visibility at all.
You said the deficit is around 80,000 per year?
It was last year.
Last year.
I'm not confident in that number right now.
Okay, because I was under the impression that it was more.
It says, it goes on to say in this, from our last meeting, that total trying to make up is 177,000.
That was, from my recollection, that was with the new hire. And that hasn't happened by that.
Speaking of that, is there an update on how it's going with contracting? We talked about contracting with plumbers as an alternative. Is that going
I
okay?
even had to, I put that option on the table for Keith. Said, hey, I got your part-time. He helps Troutdale. Of course, he does everything for Old Town as well. I said, if you need help, we're willing to look at some other options to help. I think Alan and Keith, and they went out to change a master meter recently, and we did have to get some contract help out. And he was pretty happy about getting help because they were nervous about changing out the master meter for the first time. So we put that option on there.
So we're okay with this for now.
I guess the only concern I have, Troutdale's certainly concerned if something happens to Billy Mitchell. Keith's really the only backup for Troutdale right now. So something we'll have to think through. And the process for getting someone certified. I may have sent you all the pass rates for the water folks. It's in the 33%. They're not high numbers to get people certified. We put out an announcement sometime for part-time help. We have some part-time help now, but Danny's basically retiring and not helping us out in the future. I think we're gonna have to try to grow somebody internally into this, or find someone who's interested in giving us some more help towards water. Go ahead, Paul.
The challenge has been that with nobody else other than Keith qualified as an operator, if Keith is not there, having Alan and the rest of the crew available doesn't help because they're not qualified or authorized to operate, to work on the system. So they can assist if Keith is there as the operator of record, if they can't do it on their own.
How high is the bar to get them certified?
Well, that's what I was just telling you. Keith started as maintenance and worked through that. He said, Mitch and I had a meeting with him the other day because, we're talking about this. He said there's a program in Whitfield, WCC. How long is that program?
He told me that just the next day.
Oh.
So now he's looking elsewhere. I know Virginia Tech does.
Okay.
But he's looking.
Okay.
With one stopping.
Yeah. It's one of the interesting things I was reading through the article was that the pass rates are so low, 32% are passing these water tests now. And I believe did you send that to me, Paul? Yeah. Yeah. And it's all based on memorization now. It's not, you can't have manuals in front of you. You can't Google anything. It's not, in the real world, you kind of have stuff in front of you. They're not allowing that anymore. So you have to spend some time studying and getting ready to pass these tests. I think we're going to have to probably invest in, one of Alan's guys or girls and have a backup or
That's exactly how we got Keith.
I think we should try to pursue that if any of those people are interested.
We're 1D.
The next PSA meeting, will we have a rate, what the actual rate adjustment is so we can move forward with the public hearing?
So make sure I understand what you're asking. You want a rate adjustment based on current loss and to keep up with what GALAX has increased? Or you want a rate adjustment? The last discussion we had was just based on what the increase from GALAX. And GALAX, if you remember, GALAX rates are increasing each year for the next 3 years, is it? Yeah, 3 years.
Well, the $80,000 deficit is impacting every taxpayer and benefiting 350 people.
Understood.
As if I'm hearing all of this right.
That's correct.
So it may be too high because I get it that we're supposed to provide a service in this county. But in a perfect world, the rate adjustment would cover the loss. And that may be way too high. And I know we crunched numbers in here last time.
So how about this, Chair? We'll give you a couple COAs. We'll give you a couple courses of action. We can give you at the next meeting if you want to cover all the current supplement loss
With the new hire.
Not with the new hire, with the rate increase. No labor charge. I'm not talking about labor charges. If you want to increase what GALAX is increasing plus the loss, or without it, we'll give you both those options.
And the third one would be with the new hire.
With the new hire.
If we could have 3 of those just to look at it, because we know we need a new hire. But it's not a pass-through expense anymore.
So if we get the increase to get us out of the deficit to where GALAX is now, are we looking at double, but each year when they add theirs, it automatically goes out too? Because then we're gonna be in another deficit.
You're right. So, Mitch, I may need a little help here. So I don't know that we could, would we need to have a hearing? Will we need to have a public, that's okay.
I was writing their assignment.
That's right.
I didn't want to be-
Will we need to have a public hearing each year on a rate increase?
Yeah,
Or can we?
anytime you do a rate increase.
Okay.
And we can't announce for that public hearing until we know what the rates are.
Until Galax gives us a
I
rate
got
increase.
We could tie it to their rate increases.
What's that, Paul?
So we could tie it to theirs, so we would just not be able to implement until we have a public hearing.
Okay, we're gonna move on. There's no new business. Informational items, violation over capacity.
Yes, sir. We are currently under a violation. Our water system's under a violation with the Department of Health because our capacity that we are in agreement with the city of Galax to purchase, we have been over that for most of the last 12 months.
Is that because of the loss that's happening through the,
That is primarily due to the loss. And there may be some metering issues, but we did just replace that meter, so that will be good too.
How much was the cost of the master meter?
I don't have the price yet.
Is it
was installed
$18,000?
this week, but yeah, it's several $1,000s.
who are we in trouble from?
It's the Department of Health.
Department of Health.
So
Drinking water.
Office of Drinking Water. Just when they give you the authority to operate a water system, whatever your source water is for that, you have a maximum capacity that has to be defined. Our maximum capacity is defined as 101,000 gallons, and we were over that. So we responded to the health department. I responded by letter to them, advising them that one, we are researching the possibility of adding water sources, which y'all had asked me to do, and that is in progress. The second item was we are aggressively working on leak reduction. We've made quite a bit of progress on that. We have one more major project that is currently being scheduled that we think is going to cause a pretty significant reduction in loss. And then the third item is we can go to the city of Galax and ask for an increase in our maximum capacity. I would request from the board tonight that to give me the authority to request a 15% increase in our capacity from the city of Galax, which would clear us from this violation.
And is that just as easy as asking for an increase, or is, I mean, what are the?
It's pretty simple.
There's no financial obligations.
Does that require a motion and a vote from the PSA?
Yes, sir.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion and seconds. Is there any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm also aye.
All right, I'll submit that letter. I'll prepare it for the county administrator, and we'll submit that to the city of Galax then for approval.
Perfect. Okay, no registered speakers, no executive session. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'm also aye.